Hello there and welcome to today's vlog. The more perceptive of you may have noticed that I'm not at home. I'm actually in New York. I've been to New York several times. My sister lives about 100 miles up that way, but I've also been here quite a lot for work. But this is the first time I've been here for many years, and it's quite overwhelming. You just don't know quite where to start, so you've got to start somewhere, and we've started in Central Park. So I think there is a bit of a spoiler alert here. Now, although there are plenty of bikes for hire, including those kind of city bike things, like that one there, I'm not sure I'm quite brave enough to take on the traffic here in New York on a bike. Basically, I just don't know where I'm going. So, yeah, I'm going to just walk. So there might not be any actual bike riding in this vlog. Central Park is so iconic. It's almost like you go around every single corner and you recognise some scene from some film you've seen at some point. I expect every inch of this park's been filmed once upon a time. Yeah, it's just an amazing place to be. So as you probably guessed, I'm here with Di, my other half. It's the school half term, so we tend to go away, and we've decided to come to New York this time. I think Di's looking for the lake where they filmed Enchanted.
I mean, it might not be the lake that they did it. I mean, he's walking along next to the lake, which he's walking along with Patrick Dempsey, singing to him.
Terrific. I've never seen wild turtles before. I think I've underestimated how big Central Park is. We're starting to get a little bit lost, so I think we're going to head back out and back into the city. So after a fairly long and twisty-turny route out of the park, we are now back in the city, walking down Central Park Way, heading for Times Square. Well, that's useful to know. Bike hire, $15 an hour. I think Di's getting a bit tired, so we're going to stop for a drink at a diner, American diner. That'd be an experience.
That's better.
Have you ever seen cookies so big?
No. I have actually. There was one even bigger earlier. They were actually the size of the bottom of that plate.
Turns out we were both pretty tired, so we headed for our hotel near Times Square for some much needed rest. So here we are, day 2, and we've made our way to Grand Central Station. And whenever I think of Grand Central Station, I always think of the first time I ever came to New York City. It was back in 1991, and I was visiting my sister. We caught the train from Larchmont down to Grand Central here, and I walked out, and literally the first thing I saw was a man on the ground with cops over him with guns pointing at his head. So I thought, yep, welcome to New York City. So the plan for today is to go down to the Brooklyn Bridge and have a look. So this is the famous Brooklyn Bridge. I think we're still a little bit jet lagged because it's only 9:15 in the morning. Feels like mid-afternoon for me now. We only got here yesterday. I'm just around the corner from the deli now, and I've stumbled across the World Trade Center, and obviously this is where the Twin Towers were, or very near here at least. And I remember the day the towers came down. I was watching the Vuelta a España on TV, and they came on in the middle of the race and interrupted it and said that there'd been an incident in New York, and then I switched over and watched it all live unfold before me. Couldn't believe what I saw. Yeah, New York is a city where you definitely need to look up. Is it just me, or is she rather cute? Maybe I'm just sick. We're now off to go and see probably the single most famous thing you associate with New York. Yeah, that's right, it's Big Ben. Good morning. Day 3 in New York, and we're in Greenwich Village. The last time I was here in Bleecker Street was back in, I think it was 1991, and my sister brought me here because she'd heard of a particular restaurant that was owned by a chap called Al Lewis. Now, Al Lewis was much better known as Grandpa Munster, and we visited the restaurant, and luckily for us, he was there, and I said hello, and I had my photograph taken with him, and if I can find it, I'll put it here somewhere. If you've ever watched an American TV series, or particularly one of these kind of sitcom type programs where they've lived in an apartment block or a typical kind of brownstone building, and it was set in New York, then chances are they were kind of living here in Greenwich Village. Well, I can certainly feel that it's very, very different here than sort of uptown Manhattan. It's a lot quieter, it's a lot lower, just seems a bit more kind of normal here. And indeed, they have filmed quite a few TV series here, and Di has discovered that a couple of her favourite TV series were filmed here, and we're off now to go and have a look at the buildings.
All I ever do is march you around.
She's a bit worried that she's not that sophisticated looking with her coat tied around her waist, but I told her, you know, she's with me. I'm the equivalent of a pair of Gucky shoes. So this is the famous Washington Square in Greenwich Village. Yeah, nice little green space. Nowhere near as big as Central Park apparently. Quite glad about that. And we're going to go and have a look at the arch. So what programme was filmed here?
Coronation Street.
Really? I thought that was Manchester.
Friends.
Yep, so apparently this is the exterior location from the TV series Friends. Now, I never used to watch Friends, didn't really appeal to me. I just thought it was a programme about a group of 30-year-olds with learning difficulties. So we're off to the next TV destination. Yep, it's definitely a hipster area when you see a load of single speed bikes. So what programme was filmed here?
Sex and the City.
So there we go, Sex in the City apparently. Again, it's a series I never quite understood. In the episodes I watched, it struck me it was a group of 4 entitled 30-somethings and their granny. That's us back in Times Square. Our hotel's just off one of the streets here, so this is where we based ourselves. Nice and central, but my goodness, isn't it busy? Day 4, and it's Saturday, and I'm really surprised at how different it feels here now. It's so much quieter. It's still fairly busy, but I suppose with it being a weekend, not a work day, then there are fewer people about. It's only 9 o'clock in the morning as well, so I suppose that counts for something. Probably doesn't get busy until a bit later on. So I was saying yesterday how I didn't really understand Friends or Sex in the City, but one series that I did get and rather enjoy was 30 Rock. Probably because it was set in a TV studio, so it was all kind of familiar. It was very funny, and yeah, I probably fancied Tina Fey as well. So here I am at the top of the rock where that series was kind of based. I think it was in the studios down below me, and as you can see, it's an absolutely fantastic view up here. Well, this is the famous 5th Avenue here in New York, and it's obviously very famous for shopping. I'm not particularly interested in that sort of thing. Di's got a plan. We're going somewhere. I'm just following her. I just hope it doesn't involve buying shoes. Looks like it's involved a subway ride to 14th Street and 8th Avenue. So I am now walking on the Highline, which I understand was a railway back in the day that used to transport food. I think that was the meatpacking district behind us to further into the city, but a few years ago they turned it into this 1.5 mile long walkway, and as we walk along it we should get some nice views of the city and the river, and yeah, it's just a nice place to be. Here are some old railway lines. Well, that's the end of the Highline. So that was really interesting. It was really unusual, sort of getting or walking along the old track there with all of the plants and everything, like you were sort of in the middle of the country. But then you were surrounded by all these skyscrapers and all of these amazing buildings, like you can see behind me here. This is the Hudson Yard end, so I think the plan from here is to catch a subway train back towards Times Square and then maybe do something else. Final day today, and we are going to see a piece of rock history, or rather an infamous piece of rock history. Behind me here is the Dakota building on West 72nd Street, just opposite Central Park. And this was the home of John Lennon. Now, on an evening in December 1980, he was on his way home and he was assassinated by Mark Chapman. Now, I was never a particularly big Beatles fan. I like them, as well as anybody does. But it's just strange to think that a couple of weeks ago I was in Liverpool where he was born, and now here I am in New York in the place where he died. And just opposite the house is Strawberry Fields. And yeah, as I'm here now, there's a chap singing Imagine and people selling John Lennon badges and whatnot. So yeah, I wonder what John would have thought. They say that everybody remembers where they were when they heard that John Lennon was shot, and I certainly do. I was 13 and I was pretending to be ill to get the day off school, and my mum was making breakfast and it came on the radio, and I just seem to remember being a little bit sort of shocked by it, even though, as I say, I wasn't a particularly big Beatles fan. Yeah, a dog wearing sunglasses. In a couple of hours I'll be making my way back to Newark Airport to catch my flight back to London. But as the more eagle-eyed of you will have probably noticed, there's no cycling in this vlog. So no excuses, I just wasn't brave enough to ride a bike through the streets of New York. It just looked far too chaotic for me. But while I'm here, I will go through a few stats and figures and stuff. So I arrived here on Wednesday. I've been here for 5 days, and in that 5 days I did 88,000 steps, which translates to 65 kilometres. I can't believe it myself, but it explains why my feet feel the way they do. So yeah, that's quite a walk for me. So hopefully the next vlogs I'll be doing will be back on the bike, back in the UK, and some of them might be somewhere else as well. So yeah, stay tuned.